All right, welcome back to episode 3 of the Robbie Chemical Show. I'm here with Kevin Theodore. How's it going, Kevin?
Feeling good.
Kevin
feeling
is
great.
a music producer. He's in from LA this week. Originally New York born though, of
Yes,
course.
sir. Yes, sir.
Kevin, how's it going today?
Doing good. Feeling great. A little, slightly hungover, but feeling pretty good.
Oh, you're slightly hungover?
Yeah. I had a bit of a hang yesterday.
Oh, what did you do?
Just like hung out with some friends and stuff like that, and it probably went a little bit later than I would have planned, but still good.
What, you guys hung out in New York City?
Yeah.
Like Brooklyn or Manhattan?
By the Heights.
Oh, that's up in
Washington Heights. Yeah.
Washington Heights.
Yeah.
Did you guys go like bar hopping?
Yeah. It's bar hopping and stuff.
Is it just good to be back in the city?
It feels great to be back in the city, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you just made the jump, Kev.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. A couple of months ago, I moved to LA from New York after
Yeah.
living here my whole life. You know, never not lived in New York. So
Right. Yeah, so for those of you guys who don't know, it's a big thing to go from New York to LA. It's just kind of like a rite of passage for a lot of music producers. And I actually haven't been in LA in like 3 or 4 years, but from what I hear, it's there's a lot of great work out there and a lot of incentive to make that jump.
yeah, definitely, I would say so for sure.
Right. How are you liking it so far?
I love it so far. Like pretty much, I think so. Over the years, I've been kind of visiting LA a couple of times a year from New York, like doing the whole bi-coastal thing. And I would go there for maybe like 2 weeks at a time to like just do sessions with people, and just meet different artists, go to like mixers and like meet friends and stuff. And
Right.
then I think because of that, by the time I moved there, I was able to kind of get into working right away. So that ended up being really helpful for me.
Right. So you prepared to psychologically to go out there by going for little spurts at a time. Right?
Yeah, and it wasn't even. Didn't even necessarily do it with the intention of like
Right.
having that happen. I was just like every time I went out there, I just like these really cool opportunities would come about, and I'd be like, all right, when can I get back here? You
Right.
know.
So in a sense, the work kind of drew you out there.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, there's beautiful weather and everything, and like the people are really friendly. I have some family out there too, but I think the main thing that made me leave New York to move anywhere else was definitely the work for sure.
How do you like the weather out there?
I mean, it's beautiful, like sunny all the time. I mean, after a while, it kind of gets like, okay, let's mix it up a little bit.
Right.
That's like I think when I came back here a couple of weeks ago, I was like, even though it was like, it's kind of chilly out here now. We're in winter, but
I've
like,
heard the good weather could be like bewitching in a sense, where it kind of makes you
Bewitching.
like, I don't know. That's what my buddy used to say.
I like that word.
Yeah,
No.
just like kind of like puts you in this state where you're not even thinking about time, or you kind of lose your sense of urgency.
Yeah, you definitely start to forget what day it is.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, every day is beautiful and sunny, so like
Yeah,
maybe
it's like
I'll take
it's like
the day
being on
off.
tour. It's just like you forget what day it is. Sometimes like you kind of like it's can be a lot easier to lose track of the time.
Right.
But but I mean it's beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful beaches and stuff like that. A lot of great scenery.
Are you near Santa Monica Boulevard?
No, I mean, so I've been working out of this commercial house for a couple of years as well, and that was in Santa Monica. So like there were moments back in the day where I'd be around that area, and that was cool. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I haven't been there since I moved. Because now I'm in Koreatown.
K-Town.
Yeah, and the new office is in downtown LA. So
Do you have a car out there?
no, I do not have a car yet.
How is the transportation system? Like, do you take a lot of Ubers?
I take a lot of Ubers.
Okay.
But, I'm also fortunately I'm a couple of blocks away from like one of the few subway stations.
There
that
is
are
a
actually
subway
there.
in LA, right?
Yeah, there's a subway system. It's not like New York's, but I mean,
Yeah.
Also, I mean, New York's system's been around like forever.
Yeah, it's been around since like the 1800s.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and they've had the same trains too.
they got
yeah.
got some catching up to do for sure.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
think
sometimes the subways are okay.
they're off to a good start.
Yeah. That's great, man. So Kev, to me, you're like the quintessential working producer. Like, you are always, you're just constantly putting yourself in sessions and just like always churning those creative gears. And I just like, I'm sure people would love to know, like, what does it take to be a producer, and how do you prepare yourself to encounter all these environments and people and things and scenarios? Like, how do you stay cool through all that?
I think I think a lot of it was just from doing it a lot. And like I'm always surprised when people or at least like kind of caught off guard when people like think that I guess that I'm like pushing myself really hard or going around the clock, just because I'm always in the mindset of just like, okay, this is like, I always feel like this is what I need to do to get to where I need to be. And it always just feels like standard practice. But then, I'll either just take a moment to realize, wow, I haven't really chilled in a while or anything like that.
I didn't eat today. Yeah.
Yeah. Or somebody will be like, yo, okay, you've been going pretty hard, but
yeah, you have a competitive edge though, man. For sure.
Word. That's awesome. Well, thank you, man. I mean, as far as how I've gotten used to, I guess, working under pressure, I think the only thing that's helped at all has been just doing it a lot. Because I used to get really, really nervous, I think, for sessions, or even when because before I produced, I was just a touring musician for probably about like 10 years or so. And anytime we did recording sessions, for like whichever band I was in at the time or anything, I'd get so nervous for that. It would take me hours to just like get to a point where I can like play something that felt natural to me. But like now I'm at a point where like anytime I go to record anything, it's like, yeah, that's how I want it to be.
That's good. Yeah. I believe that's it.
And so, yeah, I think it's just reaching a certain level of comfort just by doing it a million times and like fucking up a million times, and you know.
So your confidence comes from just, you've done this, you know what's up, you know the drill now, and that's what you bring to the session.
Yeah, well, I think it's that, and I think it's also the realization that especially once you start doing certain like high profile sessions, like you have to bring it. Like if you ever want to get called back into that room again, like you got to go hard or go home, you know.
Do you feel this is kind of an obvious question, but you definitely feel more of a pressure in those scenarios too, right?
Yeah, but I like.
Or is it almost like not less pressure because it's high?
No, it's definitely. There's definitely like there's definitely some nerves, but I kind of just I usually go through this thing where I kind of like talk myself through it, or just psych myself to kind of just being in a headspace where I can just be comfortable, relaxing, inviting, and like help the people around me be comfortable. Also, allow myself to be comfortable with who I am enough where it can be a positive experience for me too.
Right.
I think that's really been the key behind a lot of my growth, both just creatively or as a person, just embracing who I am, and just like really being comfortable in my light. So
that's awesome, man.
Thanks.
One other question on this subject. How do you create, a lot of times you go into sessions and there's a lot of different energies going around. How do you control your energy and maintain your personal homeostasis when you're around all these like different kinds of people all the time?
I mean, I think it's mostly just about just relaxing and just getting to know the people you're working with, and just kind of building a natural rapport with them. Like I remember there's this one session I did a while back, actually, and this was like a big lesson for me. I was working with this really dope writer, Hannah, and so we were working with this new artist. We were at my spot, and I had at the time I had never like hired a writer separate from the people that I was working with to work on a song together, So at first I was ready to just be like, all right, let's get right to the song, da da da. But then I realized, I think through Hannah's example, she kind of made sure we took a moment to kind of just like talk to each other, get to know each other, and then before we knew it, like after a couple of minutes, we're all kind of like joking around and like relaxing and stuff like that, and like having drinks, and then we ended up having like a really cool chemistry going into it, even though we'd never all worked together before, and I think we came out with like a really great song. So yeah, I think it's just about taking a moment to just get to know the people you're working with and build a rapport with them, so that way when you guys do work together, even if you haven't worked with them long enough to like really know them in various situations, how they operate in various situations, you at least know them well enough to do what you have to do.
Well, that's one of the things about being a producer, is kind of like you have to kind of create that chemistry on command, and do it in an authentic way too, and I think that's where like all the interpersonal skills come into play, just with making people feel comfortable, and like that is the number one prerequisite, I think, to making good music.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I feel like for me, I mean, it's been helpful. I think the cool thing about doing all these sessions that I've been able to encounter and interact with a lot of different people. So I think it's helped me become more well-rounded as a person,
Yeah.
more well-rounded socially. But I think the other thing about it is, I mean, I'm like I know a lot of people who are able to kind of switch on that vibe and
Right.
just kind of like help someone like immediately get comfortable. But I think for me that the thing that's helped the most as far as like bringing a genuine and authentic rapport and comfort with them is just by being authentic myself.
Yeah, just being yourself, man. Yeah. I even like, I feel like you grew so much just since you moved to LA, since the last couple times I was working with
it's
you.
kind of like
you're always constantly impressing me. Not that you had, but it's just your professionalism just keeps hitting new peaks, man. Yeah. It's a pleasure to work with you, man.
It's great to work with you too. I mean, like, it's really dope working in the rooms with you, and like you become like my homie. So
Yeah, definitely.
it's awesome.
So I'll switch it up for a second. I wanted to bring this up because I think this is a really, really cool story. But I was wondering if you could tell us about the first time you worked with Mac Miller.
Oh man, so I mean, so this was like the one time I had worked with him before the album ended up coming together and being released. So this was, I think I was still kind of like just starting out as far as like getting out to sessions and working with different artists. I hadn't worked with too many different people at the time. I'd mostly just worked with a producer out here in New York named Dan Edinburgh, who's like, who's
Shout out to
showing
Dan.
me, shouts to Dan, who's like really like showing me a lot as far as like how to carry myself professionally as a producer and how to operate in sessions. So just working with him and working with Jeff Gittleman out in LA. Shouts to Jeff,
Shouts to Jeff.
Yeah, I feel they've both kind of like mentored me through this process, and I definitely owe a lot of the growth that I've had to working with them.
For sure.
Asking them both a million questions, apologies.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but so this is while I was out in LA. I was kind of just like hanging around town. Jeff hits me up and he's like, "Hey man, you around for a session tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah." So then I'm hanging around for a bit, just waiting for the rest of the details. He didn't really specify who it was or anything yet. He just told me it was some big shit. So I just knew I just had to be like ready for whatever it was gonna be, wherever, And this is before Uber was like really, really a thing, and also like I still had my dying iPhone 5, so I couldn't use it even if I wanted to. So I was just walking around like Hollywood Boulevard, just like making sure I was close enough to cabs to like getting where I needed to go. So then finally he sends me the address. So then I'm like, all right, cool. Right, because he mentioned that it wasn't at the studio that he usually works at White Lines.
White Lines.
So so it was at somebody's house. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I grab a cab. I'm heading over to the house, and I'm like, all right, man, I'm on my way over. And he's like, all right, cool. Yeah, some big shit, man. It's with Mac Miller. I was like, okay, like, all right, cool.
Right.
So then I head over, and so I get to the house. Jeff brings me in. And then next thing you know, I get into the control room, so the engineer is there, and then Omos Keith is in the room, and then there's Mac. So then the first thing I do as soon as he sees that I'm there, he's like, he gets up from his seat, gives me this huge hug, like I'm like a friend of his he hasn't seen in a while. And
right.
I immediately just noticed this like warmth about him. He was just the entire time of when I worked with him that night, he was just like this really sweet guy. And was just like very accommodating and stuff like that. The kind of person you could like immediately kind of like just feel comfortable around and just chill with.
Genuine warmth.
Yes. And he showed me around the house, like showed me like some pictures of his family and stuff like that, and like some trophies that he had growing up when he was in high school from like rap competitions and things like that. And then we go over to the Wurlitzer that I end up playing on for the song that I was on, Come Back to Earth. So it was like a beautiful Wurlitzer, and it had some chord changes on it that Jeff had written out for the song, and
just sheet music on the Rhodes.
It was just like just the chords written out on just like a little sheet of paper, So I get down and I'm checking all the notes, and the first thing I notice is the sustain pedal is broken. Right.
Ah.
So like, so usually what I do in situations where the sustain pedal is broken, especially if it's over a lush song like the one I ended up playing on, is usually I'll usually try to play legato the entire time, which is you basically keeping your fingers pressed down onto the keys, and then whenever you're changing positions, just kind of moving it in a way where no fingers moving from the previous position unless it's to go to the next chord.
Right.
So
So you create the sustain that way just by leaving them on
yeah,
there,
some like itsy bitsy spider type shit.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I did to approach that track. And then there are some certain runs that would normally lend itself really well if you had a sustain pedal, but I kind of had to find my own way of approaching them without one.
Yeah,
So.
you got to make do in that situation. You can't be like, oh, where's the sustain
Exactly.
pedal?
Yeah, you really can.
Yeah,
That's like goes along with like with what we were talking about earlier, just about go hard or go home.
But that's what I'm saying. That's like one of those situations where it's like you kind of got to make that call in the moment. Like, is it going to be more inhibitive for the artistic process to take 15 minutes to find a sustain pedal, or am I just going to make this scenario work?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what you ultimately did.
Yeah, because I remember they were like, oh yeah, sustain pedal doesn't work. Is that okay, man? And then like immediately I was like, yeah, I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm ready.
You never want to say like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that was like the quintessential moment, like where that lesson has never rung more true than that moment for me. And I feel like because of that experience, like I've just carried that into every session. So like every time I go into any session now, I'm just like I just throw all the way down like every
Right.
time, And I think it's gone on to serve me really well. I think as a creative person and just like as a professional in general, just to be able to bring things up to a certain standard and just like every time.
So you guys get rolling on the sesh. How does that go down?
So I listened to the songs they have so far once or twice, and at the time it was just the bass and the guitar part, both of which Jeff played, and Mac Miller's vocals. So at that point, all I had to do was lay down the keys. So I took some time to kind of figure out how I was gonna approach it, and then after a few takes, I used my approach for the whole song, and yeah, that was that.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome,
Yeah.
Kev. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime story, man. It's just
it really changed
so
my
inspiring
life, too.
for the people out there to hear how things happen like that, where you put all this work in, and then hopefully one day you get that call to come to that big session.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was really nuts. And it really changed my life in multiple different ways. Not only just from that way of just being prepared to adapt to any kind of situation in the studio, but also just as far as the amount of care and detail that Mac put into that track. Because already aesthetically that approach, I had never heard that over a hip hop or a rap track before.
Right.
I wasn't even I was just kind of beside myself to even just hear that approach. So I don't know, it really just inspired me to try to take that same kind of care and approach into any music I'd made going forward.
Right.
And then and even then I feel like I'm just constantly trying to just improve that craft and just get better and better at it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. So you've been working with another A-lister too. I don't mean to embarrass you, but you were playing with Anderson .Paak too.
Oh, well, I mean, I just had the one session with him, so it's funny.
Just one session?
Yeah, but so it's funny that actually happened the same week as the Mac
Oh,
Miller
really?
session. Yeah, it was a crazy week, man.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, well, it's funny. So the Mac Miller session, I was sweating bullets the entire time. By
Right.
the way, I was and I stayed pretty quiet most of that session. I was just like, okay, I did what I had to do.
Right.
Now let me use all the energy I have to just keep it together right now,
Yep.
and then go home and reflect on
Take a
this
cold
later.
shower, yeah.
Yeah. and then the next day, I'm thinking back on this session and just thinking about all the things that I did that I liked, all the things I wish I'd done better. And I tend to, as most artists are, I tend to be my own worst critic. So I was like, damn, I should have done that.
Yeah.
Oh man, and so I reach out to Jeff. I'm like, yo, man, like, thanks for giving me a shot. This is really cool to be able to work with you guys and see you guys work. And then he's like, dude, like, you killed it,
It's like, bro, you killed it.
Yeah. And then he hit me up for another session that day, and I didn't know who was going to be there at the time. I was just like, yeah, cool. And I think it was a thing where me and Jeff were initially just getting together to just like cook up on some instrumentals and maybe like pitch it to someone later. So we get together this time it is at White Lines, and we go and we do that for we make a couple of tracks, and after that I think one of the engineers called them into the other room because I think they had found out that Anderson .Paak was there, because I guess at the time Anderson and his crew and Omaz and his team were like sharing the same building.
The White Line studio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were sharing it. So
I don't think I ever went to. I went to the one before that, Outlaw or whatever.
I feel like I went there too. I've only been to that particular White Lines building and to Outlaw like one time, and then the most recent iteration of White Lines I've been to like a couple of times.
Right.
Yeah, I love that space. It's beautiful.
Sick.
Yeah.
So you find out he's there.
Yeah, find out he's there. So then Jeff goes to work on them for a bit. I'm just kind of hanging in the studio, and then like a little while goes by, and then the engineer calls me in. So then so I'm there, and I'm kind of just sitting there and watching them, like, and then Omaz is there on bass, just like absolutely crushing it, like yeah. And then Jeff is there on guitar as well, and they're both just playing this like just really beautiful chord progressions, and just like and Anderson .Paak is there as well as a singer from Aluna George, and they're both
nice.
They're both just riffing off of these chord changes, and it's all being recorded on the spot. So I'm just like watching
all multi-track, like
yeah, and so like this is what I walked into.
Yeah.
So I was
like, hey guys.
I was just like, oh shit, I'm just gonna sit over
Day
here.
two.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just kind of just taken aback by even just being in the same room as these people right now. So I'm watching everything happen, and then they finish with that track, and they're listening back, and then yeah, after a while, we just hung out and just started watching like really funny videos on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah. So like
naturally.
Yeah. So after that, we were all kind of just like chilling and hanging for a bit, and then at a certain point, someone suggested, I think it was Jeffy, suggested that we try a track that had keys on it,
right?
Which then means that I would have to then play with them.
It's your shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And at this point, I had already gone through the Mac session, so I was like,
so
all right, let's go. I'm
right,
like,
right.
So I was very, at that point, I was just like ready to just deal, and I was already just in a mindset where I wanted to improve even more, even from how I had done the night before.
Yep.
So then we go into the room. They set everything up. So there's a Rhodes there. This time Omaz Keith is on drums. Also crushed that.
Right.
And then
do you have like an isolated drum room kind of thing?
No,
because I've never been to the studio before.
So in this room, I don't think it was. I think we were all just in the same room, and they just had everything like either mic'd or DI'd.
Right.
So the three of us were in that room, and I start a groove on the Rhodes, and we kind of just start playing off of it for a while. So we're jamming for a bit and just kind of like getting into the zone. We all have headphones on, and next thing I know, I hear Anderson .Paak in my headphones, like, yo, that's hard, that's hard. So then I'm like, oh, he was listening to this whole time. You know what I mean? And then he starts rapping over it. So then next thing I know, he's rapping over the thing I'm playing while everything's being recorded, like in real time.
Yep.
And so it's just this kind of like surreal,
What's going on? This is sick.
Yeah. But at the, I still had to keep it together and hold it down. So I was just like, yo, keep going, Kev.
This is another day in the life, Kevin. Yeah. You good. You got this, man.
Yeah. So I mean, so that happens, and so we jam for a while. We get the ideas down. We get it recorded, and then at that point, we're wrapping up the session, and everyone's packing up and stuff. And then Anderson comes into the room where the rest of us were playing at, and he comes and like he shakes my hand. He's like, "Man, it's cool jamming with you, bro."
Yeah.
It's like it was a lot of fun. I was like, "Man, thank you, man." And like I couldn't even like get to the like. I didn't even have time to process that even just happened. That I just like. That I just recorded that with him, and now I'm like chatting with him about this experience. But I pretty much just I tried my best to keep it cool, and that was another night that week.
Another day in the life.
Yeah. So I think that was one of the weeks out in LA. I was like, I definitely need to like come out here as often as I can.
Do you find that like those kinds of like, organic interactions with like A-level talent happen more in LA than New York kind of thing?
Yeah,
because that's what I've heard. Yeah,
they do. At first, I wasn't entirely sure of just how big of a difference the volume of those kind of opportunities were from New York versus LA, but it was the kind of thing where as soon as I moved there, like as soon as I moved to LA, like things just like kind of immediately started happening.
Right.
And it was kind of like it gets really overwhelming if you're not careful, just because I think a lot of people who live there now, very much like New York, it's the kind of thing where a lot of people aren't from LA. You know what I mean? Just like a lot of people living in New York now aren't from New York, but it's the kind of thing where they still sacrificed a lot even just to be there.
Right.
Just because it's so much of an industry town, like people are going there to work in the film industry, people are going there to work in the music industry, like TV or whatever, So because of that, like by the time they get there, it's like, okay, I've like left this job behind, maybe they left a relationship behind, maybe like something like that, and they were like, I sacrificed all this just to be able to just be here, so let me put in all the work I can to see this through, so that like none of that, so it was all worth it,
Yeah, because you're it's put up or shut up when you do something like that. I mean, I did the same thing. I left a pretty stable city job in New Haven, Connecticut to like come to New York, and ultimately I've been pretty happy with that decision.
I'm happy about it too,
man. Yeah, I know you are. That's awesome, man. Yeah, awesome stories. What was I gonna say? So I don't know if this is right, but I guess you're kind of like a science fiction enthusiast.
Oh hell yeah! Bro.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, yeah. So there isn't much to tell here. It's just like I think I just was always really drawn to it. I remember being in first grade and being obsessed with the Sci-Fi Channel.
The Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, like my parents, they just got basic cable, and one of the channels they had like Nickelodeon, like who wasn't gonna like that?
Yeah.
Like, and there's Cartoon Network and there's the Sci-Fi Channel, and I remember in first grade rushing home every day so I can make it home in time to watch The Incredible Hulk with Lou Ferrigno.
The Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk?
Yes.
Wow, dude.
And then after that was done, I would just watch Sci-Fi Channel for like the rest of that day, just so I could see if there was like any other cool show on that like I would have missed had I had stopped watching it.
So you just like, honestly, the Sci-Fi Channel used to scare me like when I was a little kid.
I think I liked scary stuff though. Like I was terrified of horror movies, like anything remotely scary as a kid. I was like really freaked out by it, but I was also like fascinated by it. But then I started to encounter, these very, in these sci-fi stories, these like very strange and imaginative stories that weren't scary, but like because of it, just how creative and imaginative it was, like I was always so drawn to it.
Right.
So I mean, I would like at first I just used to watch The Incredible Hulk every day, but then I got introduced to the original Battlestar, and then Planet of the Apes, and then let's see, like The Outer Limits, and Tales from the Dark Side, like all that stuff.
How about the Twilight Zone?
Hell yeah. I love the Twilight Zone as well.
We just watched the marathon, my girlfriend Jamie and I.
For New Year's.
Yeah, we did watch
That's awesome.
Basically watched the whole thing.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's one of my favorite shows as well.
It's kind of crazy how they were able to like elicit such like genuine fear without any like special effects.
Those are my favorite kind of shows and movies, though.
I think that it's so much creepier when they don't like really like show you the goblin or whatever. They make it a
One of my favorite horror movies ever, still to this day, is still Rosemary's Baby, and there's hardly
I've never seen Rosemary's Baby before.
Oh, I love it, and the thing I love the most about it is just how conceptually frightening it is. You know what I mean? It's like there isn't like no spoiler.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it,
right? If you haven't seen it yet,
yeah. Right.
But like there isn't much violence to it or anything like that. There's not like any crazy blood or gore like Saw or some shit. But
right.
By the end of the movie, you're kind of like you're a little creeped out, you know. And those are my favorite.
That one's about like a possessed kid or something like that, right?
So it's about this recently married couple, and the husband, who's an actor, basically sells his unborn child, sells their unborn child to the devil so that he can have a successful acting career. Basically,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's,
I gotta see this.
Yeah, and then that unborn child ends up becoming the Antichrist. So basically, throughout the entire movie, the wife is trying to figure out what the hell is going on, right? Because and then on top of that, just trying to find any way she can to just stop whatever might be going on.
Right.
Yeah. So that's like the movie.
Oh. I love horror films myself.
Yeah.
I really like I have to say The Shining is my favorite horror film.
Yeah, I love The Shining as well. Even though I was shocked to find that like Stephen King doesn't really like the
he didn't dig it because
it wasn't faithful to his story.
Yeah, Kubrick took a lot of like liberties with like changing things. Like the axe was supposed to be like a croquet mallet, and like room 237 was actually like 217.
Whoa, okay.
Because like the hotel like didn't want the actual room to for people to think it was haunted or whatever, so they used like a number that didn't actually exist in the hotel.
Oh man, dang.
But
that would have made a nice tourist thing though.
Yeah, I mean you can go to the Overlook Hotel and like you can go like.
Where is the Overlook Hotel?
It's in Colorado.
It's in Colorado. Okay.
Yeah, it's in Colorado. It's on my to-do list.
Speaking of like horror hotspots, so my folks that live out in Deer Park,
okay,
just close to Amityville, which is where the Amityville Horror House is.
Yes.
So I've been there before. Actually.
So what do you know about that?
I mean, so I saw the original movie, and like there's a whole story about how people always thought that maybe the house is haunted or maybe there's some evil spirits because a family lived there and then the husband you know.
Indian burial ground kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even, because that's like Pet Cemetery, right? I'm actually I don't know the full story of like why it was haunted, but apparently there was like a grisly murder there involving this family,
right?
And they made like 7 movies out of it. Like,
yeah, I've seen a couple of them.
Yeah, Hollywood was
or
just
definitely seen the original. I feel like.
it's messed up, but yeah, like once that happened, like just the movie studios, they were just like, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, we got Amity's a big hot.
Yeah. So I mean, so I was hanging with a couple of friends and we were just like, yo, like the Amityville house is like maybe like 20 minutes from here. You trying to go see this?
Right.
Like we heard, because I think we heard that a family.
Oh, you went to see it?
Yes.
It's got the windows on it.
It has
right?
the windows.
The little windows.
It has everything. Yeah, it's everything you see in the movies. That's what the house looks
right.
like. So like what else happened? We found out a family had just moved there, right? And this is a good couple of years ago. It was like 2012, 2013 or something.
Okay.
So then we drive over there just to see the house. So then we're driving there, and already I don't know if it's because I'd seen the movie as a kid, but there was just a creepy aura to it.
Right.
There was just an energy about it that was just like,
this guys. I don't know if I'm down for this, man.
I mean, I was down, but like I knew we should not stay. I was like, we should not stay here.
You could pick up a ghost and bring it home with you.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. Like and then after we stayed for a couple of minutes, all of a sudden, like next thing I know, we're surrounded by cop cars.
No way.
Yeah, so they were surrounded by cop cars. We're just like, oh shit. So then one of the cops come up to us and like they're saying basically ever since the family had been moving there, all these people have been driving up just to see the house. And,
right.
Obviously that's really disturbing as a new family.
I mean, what did they think when they bought that house? I mean, did they?
Also true.
There's a million houses out there. You don't have to buy the Amityville.
Comes with
house.
the territory. Yeah, you don't need to buy that.
You don't need to get that one. You kind of want that.
Long Island's big enough where you can get another house in Amityville.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's neither here nor there now.
Maybe they got a good deal.
It's probably an amazing deal.
They probably got a really good deal.
Yeah. But like so they basically just tell us to like fuck off basically.
Right.
And like so we're like, all right, thanks officer. Yeah. So then we get out of there, and then we're just kind of like geeked out like, oh my god, we saw the house. Oh, shit was so creepy and everything. But that was like my one dark tourist
flirtation
moment.
with the dark side.
Yeah. That was my one, aside from Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back. The Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because that's
Boba Fett.
Oh, was he in that? Yeah, he was in that.
Right?
Yeah, because he captures Han. Yeah. But I think that was also, that was also the one where like Luke was concerned about being tempted to go into the dark side of the Force.
Right.
That continues in the Return of the Jedi.
Right. But Thankfully, he never went all the way.
Right. But yeah, I digress. In short, yes, I love sci-fi.
That's awesome, man. So I wanted to ask you, do you have any like ongoing projects you want to mention today?
Oh yeah, no,
I heard you have a
absolutely.
new release coming out tomorrow.
I do. So there's a new track that I'm releasing tomorrow.
Okay.
January 6th.
January
2020
6th, yeah.
For those who watch it later, it's called Jet Lag. Really happy, really excited about it. So the approach I took for this, so it's an instrumental track, right?
Okay.
But
It's a single.
yes,
Okay.
it's a single. And basically what I did was usually I like to come into a composition with like some kind of concept in mind, but this is one of the few moments where I kind of just set up a keyboard sound and like some bass sounds, and I kind of just improvised for a while.
Did you set up your palette of sounds kind of beforehand?
Yeah. Because by this point, this is probably around the time I first started really making music for myself.
Right.
So it took a while, but I finally started to reach a point where I found these kind of these selections of sounds that I feel like I really gravitated towards at the time that really spoke to what sounds I was connecting with and what I felt like my style was at the moment.
Right.
So yeah, I improvised for a couple of minutes. And strangely enough, everything kind of like wrote itself.
Okay.
Like, and I feel like that doesn't happen to me very often.
And this is you're all by yourself.
Yeah, it's just me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like any of these tracks that I make that are like instrumentals or anything like that, it's like, so at least so far it's just been like completely like produced by myself. And
How do you get inspired when you're by yourself? Because I have a hard time, like, I used to be better about this, but like for me to get stimulated creatively, like I almost kind of need another person to be around to
it's
ping
interesting.
pong off of.
It's always been one of those things where it kind of just happens. It's sort of like like I wish I had like a better answer, but like
It just happens.
yeah, honestly, like I think it also comes with just trusting myself more, because I think the big thing behind these series of releases that I've been putting out is they're all representative of a period of life I'm going through right now, where I'm just totally trusting in my creative decisions and my ideas, and not doubting myself for a moment. You know what I mean? Because I think I spent most of my life doubting myself.
Yeah,
and,
no,
having other people tell me that that I should doubt myself as well, basically, and that, like, things I do aren't of
I've
any
been
worth.
in the same boat, Kev. Honestly,
Yeah.
I completely understand to be saddled by self-doubt.
Yeah, and it's heavy. As soon as you like
Charge through.
yeah, like, and literally the moment I decided to just cast all that aside and just really fully trust myself creatively, like, just my style changed and developed seemingly overnight.
Was there like a significant moment where you like just were like, fuck this, I'm not gonna have self-doubt
there is
anymore.
actually there is. So there was a session I had with this producer, Pete Rango. Shouts to Pete Rango. Yeah,
Pete Rango.
Yeah. And so we made a bunch of beats together. And at first, this is still around the time when I worked with somebody new, I was still like pretty nervous. So,
Right.
And in my head, so it was hard for me to kind of get out of my shell and create a bit. But then as the session went on, I started getting more comfortable. Like, the ideas really started to develop.
Right.
Then. And there was a particular track we were working on that where he was really impressed with some of the stuff I was doing. He was like, "Man, yeah, you gotta stop sleeping on yourself, man."
Yeah.
And for some reason, there was something about that phrase that like really hit me.
Turned on the turbines.
Yeah, it's like there's this gift that I've had this whole time that I haven't been allowing myself to shine through, because of the fact that I've been doubting it.
You've been inhibited by your own self-doubt, right?
Yeah, I was getting in my own way.
You haven't been able to kind of let the true artist kind of permeate.
Yeah, like I wouldn't allow it.
Because you're thinking about other things all at the same. You're thinking about the wrong stuff.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. I'm thinking about like rather than like I'm thinking about like what other people think, rather than what speaks to me.
Right. So you're simultaneously already assessing the outcome and the perspective, and when you really should just be kind of just thinking about the art, right?
Yeah.
I know that's like kind of,
In short, very eloquently.
Yeah,
put,
exactly. You know what I mean? Like it is, other people have said the same thing before, but it's true though. You know what I mean? Like yeah, there's so many. A lot of times it's just personal barriers to
Absolutely.
being your best self.
And it's still something I work on now, but I feel like ever since, and this was like probably around this time
And
last year.
so this guy told you this thing, and it just
Yeah, ever
just turned
since
it
then,
on.
the rest of the session ended up being amazing, and that was kind of that was the session that inspired me to start making these kind of tracks.
Right.
And honestly, it also kind of carried over into everything else I do. Like now, this style kind of carries over to other different genres and really affects it in a way that that feels very unique to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't like it. Not to like toot my own horn or anything like that, but it doesn't sound like anything else that I've heard. You know what I mean? And it's because of the fact that I'm
And only you can make this kind of
exactly
music.
because each artist, like their craft is an extension of themselves. So it can't so by definition, like there are going to be elements of it that can't be emulated by anyone else. At least not 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think because of that, just by nature, it's going to be unique in itself because I'm allowing the truest parts of myself to permeate into these songs.
Right, and that's like what the eternal quest is, to get rid of all those things that impede you just being, as true as you possibly can be.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that's like the ultimate goal as an artist, whether you're a producer, writer, songwriter.
Yeah, and sometimes you
engineer.
get more, self-imposed restrictions over time as you learn things, and you start to like kind of lose that, that glint in your eye when you first start, and you have all this kind of idealism.
Yeah.
And you start thinking like, oh, is it supposed to be this way or that way or that way? And
Yeah,
ultimately it's it doesn't matter. It's how you view it.
Yeah, it's like realizing
people like.
and understanding yourself, and then celebrating that, and that's kind of like what my kind of mission is as an artist.
Respect, man. That's awesome.
Thanks. I mean, honestly, like even this whole like my producer name, so it's Xmane, right? And
Xmane.
it started out as a joke. Like me and my friend Zach Golden, we were just kind of like chatting back and forth, joking around or whatever, and it
Right.
came up, and I was like, yeah, that'd be kind of a funny producer name. But now, I mean, as a self-professed like comic nerd as well, like
Right.
it just makes me think. So when you think about the comic X-Men, I mean, Xavier's School of Mutants, it's literally a space where people who felt like outcast their whole life or felt like they've never belonged anywhere, they have a space where not only can they be who they are, but people will celebrate and encourage that. So that's kind of what my brand is about,
Right.
And that's what each and every one of these tracks are indicative
Encouraging
of,
the
you know?
outcasts.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't realize it was a reference to
Totally,
to
yeah.
that.
Because I mean, I've always grown up feeling like I've never really kind of like I've always gotten along with a wide variety of people, but I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. But
I used to be the same way in high school.
Yeah?
I used to every year I'd be like, am I going to be a goth this year or am I going to be a
Word.
prep? I swear to God, I used to go to PacSun. I used to get the PacSun looks and then the Abercrombie and Fitch looks. And then I used to go to Hot Topic. So I had goth, skater, and prep. And I just would mull around and just,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I feel like especially around that age, around like the teenage years, like one of the things that you want the most is to feel like you belong somewhere. But
Yeah.
I think the thing I didn't understand until recently is just by embracing who I am, like I already belong, and like
Yeah.
I have a world and an energy of my own, and it's fucking dope,
It's fucking dope, man. It's all about that dopeness,
Yeah,
baby.
yes, it certainly is. Yeah. Yes.
Kevin, you've been a really good guest, and
Thank you, man. You've been an excellent host.
Yeah.
Thanks
Absolutely.
for having me
This
here.
is fun. So we're gonna wrap this up in a little bit, but I just wanted you to, let's reiterate these projects again that you got coming out.
Oh yes. So Jet Lag is coming out tomorrow, January 6th, 2020.
January 6th.
I'm currently working on a lot of new music with this insanely talented New York rapper Marlon Craft. So there'll be more news about that soon. But I'll be on the lookout because it's gonna be. I'm really excited about them.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Got some new music with Chloe Bell coming out later this year.
Absolutely.
Shouts to Chloe. Woo, woo. And
Shout out to Chloe.
and then everything else is pretty much just like projects that I've worked on that like may or may not come out, but if they do come out, it's gonna be a game changer.
Awesome, man.
So we'll definitely keep you updated.
Kevin, thanks for bringing your positive energy on the show today.
Thanks, man.
It was a
Thanks for
pleasure having
me.
you.